Cleveland City Council today for Monday, August the 22nd. I will call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Brooks.
Here.
Councilwoman McKenzie.
Here.
Councilman Estes. Here. Councilman Cassida.
Here.
Councilman May.
Here.
Councilman Hughes.
Here.
Councilman Webb.
Here.
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. As is our tradition for this Cleveland City Council, we will begin with a pledge, and our invocation today will be by Councilman at Large Ken Webb. And if we could please continue to remember our colleague who is recovering well. And we got a very good report this afternoon on Vice Mayor Avery Johnson, and we are thankful for that good report from his wife. And if we could please continue to remember him in his time of recovery, if we could stand for the pledge. Salute and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman?
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve our community and feel very blessed to live in Cleveland. Please give us wisdom to make decisions that are pleasing to you and in the best interest of our community. We ask, too, for your continued healing for Vice Mayor Johnson as he recovers from his recent illness. Be with him and his family as they care for him. Forgive us where we have fallen short, and we give you all the glory. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Webb. I am grateful for those words. The next item.
Mayor, can I make a motion on Vice Mayor Eddie Johnson to excuse him from this meeting because of his illness, please?
Certainly, that is a proper motion.
Second.
There's a proper second. Motion and properly seconded to excuse Vice Mayor Avery Johnson. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Cassida.
Aye.
Councilman Webb.
Aye.
Councilwoman McKenzie.
Aye.
Councilman Estes.
Aye.
Councilman May.
Aye.
Councilman Hughes.
Aye.
That carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That motion passes. It takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is the waiving of the reading of the minutes from our last regular session, which was August 8. That does require a motion.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the minutes for the meeting of August 8, 2022.
Thank you, Councilman May, and that does require a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Hughes. Proper motion by Councilman May, properly seconded by Councilman Hughes. Any questions or updates for the minutes? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman May.
Aye.
Councilman Hughes.
Aye.
Councilwoman McKenzie.
Aye.
Councilman Estes. Councilman Cassida.
Aye.
Councilman Webb.
Aye.
That carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That motion passes. Takes us to item number 5 on the agenda, which is special presentations and public comments. We don't have any special presentations scheduled for 3 o'clock. I'm grateful for Councilman Estes bringing us the National Championship Lee University Flames golf team, and we recognize them in our 1 o'clock session, and that honor is duly recognized and given to them. It does give us the opportunity for public comments at this time. Is there anyone here who would like to make any comments to the council? Seeing none and hearing none, takes us.
Mayor, I'd like to recognize somebody in our audience, the city's First Lady, Kim, sitting back there. Welcome on that part. So not only you get to spend the evenings with him, but you can spend the afternoons with him too. So.
Is she driving?
Can't get enough of him.
She's your driver today.
Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome. You recognize her.
My apologies to the First Lady. That takes us to item number 6, which is hearing petitions and communications. 6A is public comments, to hear public comments concerning a change in the ownership interest of members of the Elixir Wine and Spirits LLC located at 640 Inman Street. Are there any comments, Mr. Fivas, or from staff prior to this? None. We will declare this public hearing to be open. Would anyone like to comment on changes concerning the ownership interest for Elixir Wine and Spirits? Hearing none and seeing none, we will declare this public hearing to be closed. Item B is public comments. To hear public comments concerning a change in the ownership interest of membership for Georgetown Wine and Spirits located at 2325 Georgetown Road. It's in your packets, pages 19 to 29. We'll declare this public hearing to be open. Would anyone like to make comments concerning this change in ownership interest for Georgetown Wine and Spirits? If so, please speak now or give the indication. Seeing none and hearing none, we will declare that public hearing to be closed. Item C is a public hearing to hear public comments concerning the Stormwaters Division Annual Report to TDEC, the Division of Water Pollution and Control that is in your packets, Council, on pages 30 through 32. I will now declare this public hearing to be open. Do we have comments from staff, Mr. Fivas? No comments from staff. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the approval of this report? Speak now. Hearing none and seeing none, would anyone like to speak in opposition to this annual report? And likewise, seeing none and hearing none, we will declare this public hearing to be closed. Item D is to hear public comments concerning the approval of the plan of service for about 23.40 acres, as well as portions of the Freewold Road, New Murraytown Road, and Hensley Road right-of-ways from unincorporated county for property located on New Murraytown Road and Freewold Road, described in your tax map 40, parcel 78. It was approved by the Planning Commission 5-0, with 3 being absent. I will now declare this public hearing to be open. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the plan of service? Or do we have comments from the staff? Mr. Varnell, you're always welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just real quick, we had a public hearing on this 2 weeks ago, and I gave a fairly brief summary of it then. This is the plan of service for the 23.4 acres, as well as portions of the right-of-ways of Freewold Road, New Murraytown Road, and Hensley Road, which will be annexed in next Bradley County. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Varnell. Any questions for Mr. Varnell? At this time, we will now ask for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the plan of service. Please recognize.
Ben Berry with Berry Engineers. Just this item and the next two, I'm not going to have anything to add from the staff report, but I'll be available to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this plan of service? Speak now. Hearing none, would anyone like to speak in opposition to this plan of service? Like sign. Seeing none and hearing none, we will declare this public hearing to be closed. It takes us to item E as in Edward, which would be to hear public comments concerning a request by the property owner to annex said 23.4 acres, as well as portions of the Freewold Road, New Murraytown Road, and Hensley Road right-of-ways from unincorporated county for property located on New Murraytown Road and Freewold Road. It is tax map 40, as I said earlier, approved by the Planning Commission 5-0. I now declare this public hearing to be open. We've heard from staff, and Mr. Berry has made himself available for any additional questions. Anyone like to speak in favor of this annexation request? Seeing none and hearing none, would anyone like to speak in opposition to this annexation request? And like sign, seeing none and hearing none, we will declare this public hearing to be closed. Item F is to hear public comments concerning a request from the property owner to rezone said 23.40 acres, as well as portions of Freewold Road, New Murraytown Road, and Hensley Road right-of-ways from the unincorporated county into PUD 34 for the property located on New Murraytown and Freewold Road. Again, approved by the Planning Commission 5-0. We will now declare this public hearing to be open. We've heard from Mr. Varnell. Anyone here to speak in favor of this zoning request? Seeing none and hearing none, anyone here to speak in opposition of this zoning request? And likewise, seeing none and hearing none, we will declare this public hearing to be closed. Item G is to hear public comments concerning the use of the FY 2022 Burn Justice Assistance Grant Award to be received by the Cleveland Police Department. I will now declare this public hearing to be open. Mr. Fivas, do we have any staff or grants office, any comments?
No, this is for in-car systems, and this is an annual grant that we applied for, and it's a typical thing that we apply for and receive.
Great. Thank you, sir. I'll now declare this public hearing to be open. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the approval of this grant? Hearing none, would anyone like to speak in opposition to the grant itself? And likewise, hearing none, I will declare this public hearing to be closed. H is a public hearing to be held to hear public comments concerning the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, also known as CAPER, for the 2021-2022 Community Block Grant Program. I will now declare this public hearing to be open. Is there anyone here who would like to speak, or staff? I'm getting a signal. I'm getting a negative signal. It's like live television. All right. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this approval of this report? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this report? I'll declare this public hearing to be closed. Item I is to hear public comments concerning the FY 2023-2024 Annual Action Plan for the Community Block Program. I will declare this hearing to be open. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this action plan for our Community Block Grant Program? Seeing none, would anyone like to speak in opposition to the action plan? Like sign, seeing none and hearing none, we will declare this public hearing to be closed. There is an item J. It says distribution informational only, no action required relating to the obligation bonds. Number 7 on the agenda is the consent agenda. It was described earlier. All right, we have a motion to accept the consent agenda by Councilman Hughes.
Mayor, can I make an amendment to that, please? I know Joe was asking to be removed off of E, off the surplus. Move that off. Can I make an amendment to that motion, have that removed?
Certainly. So the consent agenda with the removal of item E, which was surplus property, that is a proper request. Mr. Hughes, the maker of the motion, are you okay with that?
I'm fine.
All right, so we will include that in the motion to have item E removed from the consent agenda. Councilman Cassidy, is that your acceptance of a second for that
Yes,
motion?
it is, Mayor, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. So we have a proper motion, properly seconded for the consent agenda as amended. Are there any other comments or questions or changes for the consent agenda? Proper motion by Councilman Hughes, properly seconded by Councilman Cassidy. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Hughes,
Aye.
Councilman Cassidy,
Aye.
Councilwoman McKenzie,
Aye.
Councilman Estes, Councilman May,
Aye.
Councilman Webb.
Aye.
It carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Consent agenda passes. Takes us to item 8 on the agenda, which is unfinished business, of which there is none at today's 3 o'clock meeting. So it takes us to item number 9, which is reports from council members. We begin today with Councilwoman McKenzie.
Oh, I just wanted to mention of the honor that we received the other day on the Tennessee Municipal League. You honored us for our excellence in our downtown revitalization and historic preservation. I was happy to see that for our downtown.
It's very happy to bring that home to the team here at the city.
And we'll do something more formal on that at our next council meeting.
David served on that.
We get us more than we are, so we'll do something where we have the Main Street people and all that stuff, so.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anything further?
No, sir, that's all.
Thank you, Madam. Councilman Estes.
Yeah, two things. Kathy, thanks for your work on the CDBG and the extra money that came through CAPER, ESSER, however that extra money was used the last couple of years with the COVID relief funds. Thanks for putting the report together, and thanks for reaching out to the community. You've always been very accessible. You're wanting to solve things. It really is appreciated in my district, so thank you very much. Another question, I'm sorry I was late on asking this. Sean, on the debt obligation form, why is it 5% interest rate on all those external years, starting like 2023 forward?
That's what the interest is paying on the bond for that particular year. There's a series of bonds, and that's the interest rate on those bonds for that year, but the bonds were sold at a premium, and that's how the true interest rate is calculated.
Help me. We didn't get a 5% interest rate. Why would they why is it calculated then annually at 5%?
Because you're taking you're taking those bonds, $22 odd million, you're taking those bonds and dividing them up when they're coming due, and they're paying a portion of the interest on a portion of those bonds that's listed for that year. It's 5% for that year. If you look at the long term, the true interest rate, what's the 3.35
or
or
less.
whatever it was.
So when I look at this, then, if I had the knowledge, I would look and say that we're paying it off faster. We're budgeting and paying more annually than is required by our obligation.
I don't know.
Ken, can you help me?
I'm not following your question there.
There's a schedule on page 46.
That's what I got open. Yeah.
Okay, you're looking at that. And then look back on page 45. The combination of all of that resulted in an interest cost of 3.5685. And we might have hit the market at a time when short-term rates were higher than the long-term. But I think what we have to look at is that on line 3 on page 45 is the interest cost, the TIC, what do they call it, total interest cost?
True interest cost.
True interest cost of about 3.6 overall.
That's what I have in my head.
But see, they were sold at a premium too, which means that you got paid a premium on the bonds you were selling, as opposed to selling them as a discount. And that comes into play too. That helps with the, gets you to that true interest cost of 3.56.
And those short terms would probably change from day to day.
Our variable rate that would change day to day.
Right, but I'm
It's so
saying,
minuscule.
if you were to have done this on a Tuesday, it would probably been a different rate on a Wednesday.
So, I'm tracking so far. Why then on the top of 46 does it say 5%? I just don't see that jump.
Because that's they're paying, the bonds are paying a stated, the bond itself has a stated rate of interest. It's paying for that particular year 2023. But whenever you get further out, they're different.
Never does it get down to 356.
No, but it actually gets to 3.37 and 3.5, 3.5, 3.37.
I guess you could say the weighted average is a
The weighted average
3.56.
was taken into consideration that you sold the bonds at a premium. These are what are stated in the group of bonds that you're selling.
You can take all of this, and it's not going to equal 356, weighting it year to year to year. Just explain it to me later, because that does not equal.
I'll take a call to Davenport
Okay.
to walk us through it.
I'd appreciate that. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Cassidy?
Yes, Mayor, Diane. Jonathan, on codes, can I, 3520 Atkinson Drive, can I get somebody to go and check on that, the house and
Chief.
the mowing and maintenance and stuff
I'll find out the status of
on that part?
We do have.
And I don't know either. My understanding, I don't know if it means anything or not. Maybe somebody can cut me out, but I don't know if they have running water or power or somebody's living in that house, if that's, can you do that? Can you find out, can you live in a residence without having power and water? Okay, I just want to mention that too. Thank you.
Anything further, Councilman?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman May?
Yeah. One thing, Joe, you may have talked about it at 1 o'clock. Extremely happy that Corps of Engineers going to go ahead and let the contract for the retention pond. Do we know a date? Do we think that they will start before the end of the year?
Yeah, we did talk about that. Jonathan gave us his word that it would start the next month.
Okay, that's all we need.
Wow.
He thought the construction meeting would start about the next month.
Jonathan told me he's going on vacation next month for extended leave.
For the month.
Yeah, for the month.
He said, I think he said, things will start happening pretty quickly.
Good, yeah, great. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hughes.
Yes, sir, Mayor. I wanted to ask our city manager one question. Of this $3 billion that Tennessee has for mental health,
3 billion. 3 billion.
that's what I said, $3 billion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard you.
And have we applied for our portion of that?
No,
Are we going to?
we should. Have to talk to our legislature to figure out how.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's find out how we can be a part of that. Right?
Yeah, we will.
Okay, good. Also, Hal Taylor was here at 1 o'clock, and I wish I had mentioned this while he was here, but second day of school with the city schools, we had a problem with busing, and I received several calls. So I called Hal, and within an hour, he called me back and said the problem's taken care of. It involves several families being picked up at a location that we had last year, and they changed it to North Lee Highway, which is a very dangerous place down from your house, Mayor, to try to pick up any students. But I wanted that in the record. We appreciate Hal, and he's always been sensitive to the needs of the city council, and appreciate very much him taking care of that problem. Also want to mention that this is a time of year when energy comes to our city. We've got Lee University and Cleveland State. You know, they're paying retail. They're paying for restaurants. And they provide a lot of energy for our city. In Cleveland State, we have people from Polk County and Ray County and Meigs and McMinn, and probably some from Hamilton County come to Cleveland State. So they provide a lot of energy also, and a lot of finances. I'm sure they eat here many times. So I appreciate the energy that we get as citizens living here from our two universities, one university and our college at Cleveland State. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Webb.
Mayor, the only thing I would say is that this is my last meeting of my first term. And I just want to say what an honor and a privilege it has been to serve on this council, looking forward to the next 4 years, and how much I appreciate my fellow council members and the opportunity to work with you on the needs of our citizens and our mayor. That's it.
Good words. Thank you, Councilman. And Vice Mayor Johnson is excused. That takes us to item 10 on the agenda, which is, yeah, sorry, Mr.
I'm
Fivas.
sorry, before you headed to that.
Sure.
We have, with the school starting, we've been working through some issues on some of the changes that the city schools have made. That the city schools have made with the busing, having more people walk. So we're monitoring issues related to crosswalks and some of those issues. So if you hear of any concerns from residents, please let us know. We're trying, I think Mark and I said, we're trying not to jump into the middle of that right now. We're trying to let it sort out for a few weeks. But just let us know if you hear any concerns about those changes that have happened from the busing standpoint.
Mayor,
Councilman Hughes?
you know, in talking with Hal Taylor, they had 2 bus slots they haven't been able to fill. And that's been about a week ago. I don't know whether they filled them now or not. But he said we're having to change all these routes. And I'm sure students are walking that probably rode last year because of those two routes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have issues because of those additional walkers that we're trying to see if it gets sorted out before we jump into.
Yeah.
Right.
Councilman Estes?
Yeah, just comment on that bigger comment, I think is more important to all of us. Yeah, Blythe Oldfield has not had pickup for high school, which has been a real problem. Carpooling, as of Friday, they haven't had that sorted. Hal's on it. I'm sure the schools may have already sorted it out by now, but as of Friday, we're still struggling. At the planning commission last week, I probably should have said some things, but we talked, I'm going to use this as a path. We talked about sidewalks and walking to school, but it was out of a bigger conversation of actually suggesting changes to our ordinance for sidewalks. Robert's here, Robert brought it up. We've got something to work off of. Orville was here, other people were in the room, surveyors, developers. We're working with city staff to have some recommended change in code, mostly in zoning, not in ordinances, on what's required for sidewalks in the city. And one of the side discussions was more students walking to school now within that 1.5 parental responsibility, 1.5 mile parental responsibility zone. So it was a long meeting, but I really think that the needle is moving on the planning commission to do this with zoning, to make it equitable to builders, developers, and to the city, and good for the residents. So more than you wanted to know, and I probably should have said it elsewhere, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything further? That takes us to item number 10, which is new business and ordinances. There was a motion at the 1 o'clock from Councilman Webb to include under new business the homelessness action plan that was presented by the city manager and wonderfully presented work from the staff in the last 72 hours, and I'm very grateful for all of that was done so well and so rapidly. Councilman Webb, I'll let you proceed.
Recognizing that homelessness is a complicated situation for both those experiencing it and the community in general, I make a motion to support the 15-step homelessness action plan as proposed by city staff and encourage its continued refinement and implementation on an expedited basis. We also recognize and appreciate the important role our city agencies play in addressing this issue. Mayor, I would make that motion.
Second.
All right, that is a proper motion by Councilman Webb. I actually heard 2 seconds from both Councilman Hughes and Councilwoman McKenzie. Councilman Hughes was technically first, but I'm grateful for the support for this. It is a proper motion by Councilman Webb, properly seconded by Councilman Hughes. And any comments, Councilman Estes?
Yeah. Ken, I'm glad you used the word active, because I do think this document is going to have to continue to morph as we go forward.
Sure.
I think it's a good start.
Mayor, I give way to Councilwoman McKenzie, since she is the representative for the homeless
All right,
on our council.
so I will make that change for the record. It is a proper motion by Councilman Webb, properly seconded by Councilwoman McKenzie. We've had comments. Any additional comments or questions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Webb?
Aye.
Councilwoman McKenzie?
Aye.
Councilman Estes? Councilman Cassidy?
Aye.
Councilman May?
Aye.
Councilman Hughes?
Aye.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That motion passes. Takes us to item number 11, which is announcements. The next city council meeting will be held Monday, September the 12th. It will not be here. It will be at the Museum Center at 5 Points. It will be the 3 p.m. session only, and the presentation of certificates of elections and the swearing in of our re-elected members will occur at that time. So again, City Council, Monday, September 12th, at the Museum Center at 5 Points. There will be no 1 o'clock work session, 3 p.m. session only, and at that time, the presentation and swearing-ins and certificates of elections will be given. Any other comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, we are adjourned.